Have you noticed how it kind of seems like they have a planned out FUD calendar? What I mean is, every time we get a kind of catalyst sort of FOMO news and it starts to pump Bitcoin or XRP or whatever it is, there seems to be some kind of counter narrative that somebody comes out and does, right? Now, if you think about FOMC meetings and announcements and stuff by Jerome Powell, you can say that's a little bit sort of larger than Bitcoin, right? That attacks maybe the entire economy of the United States and sort of the world, because most of the world at the moment is still dependent on what's happening with the dollar, right? So whatever is happening in the United States eventually affects the entire planet. And it more directly affects Europe anyway, right? Now, when we had the sort of Eastern surge, which is Hong Kong, Japan, and a lot of FOMO coming from the East and interest in sort of, getting into Bitcoin and, we're going up and everyone's going to FOMO in Saudi Arabia, blah, 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 blah. BRICS, we got the counter narrative where they came out and said, you know what? Those rate cuts that you're expecting, they might not happen. By the way, they might not happen, not that they will not happen. So who's to say that the next meeting, they're not just going to come out and say, hey, you know what? Things look better now. We're going to cut rates. But the damage would have been done, right? Have you noticed also how Gary Gensler has a kind of calendar? I mean, if you look at it, that's what it seems like to me, of his attacks, right? Now, he's going after MetaMask, he's going after Uniswap, he's going after Robinhood. And you ask yourself, nothing has changed effectively on MetaMask, on Uniswap, particularly on Robinhood. Why is it that he's kind of mapped out his attacks to counter things that are happening on the charts, right? Every time there's a kind of new wave, new catalyst, new FOMO, let's go up, we're gonna moon, this is happening. We get the grayscale news, they've stopped selling. All of a sudden, boom, Wells Notice gets served to one of the most popular exchanges that retail uses. I'm sure that the powers that be already have it in for Robinhood anyway, because of what happened in the last bull market. There was a lot of anti-establishment stuff going on there. And a lot of people made a lot of money using Robinhood to the detriment of the establishment, right? So they probably already have it in for Robinhood anyway, right? But the point is this: all of these lawsuits could have been issued all at the same time across the board. You can say that perhaps the SEC doesn't have the resources to fight each one individually. That could be made. But why is it that there seems to be a calendar that always matches the pumps? You can chart it out. Every time there's a little bit of a pump, boom, in comes Gary Gensler with something. And then down we go. And then up, and then Gary Gensler. There seems to be a Gary Gensler resistance. Someone should coin that and have a Gary Gensler line. And that would be the resistance that the chart keeps getting rejected from. Now, while all that is going on, which is predominantly affecting retail, on the other hand, in the background and outside the United States mostly, there are new Michael Saylors popping up all over the place everywhere, right? They might not be as massive as Michael Saylor in terms of how much money that they have. They might have companies that are not as massive as MicroStrategy, but their strategy is emulating Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy, in that a lot of companies around the world that you've never heard of on their own scale are kind of doing what Saylor did with Bitcoin, and people are buying. There are a lot of anonymous wallets or wallets that you don't know whose they are who've been piling up Bitcoin. And a lot of those are companies that are taking their money, their cash heaps, and pumping them into Bitcoin as a hedge for inflation. Because, inflation doesn't just affect individuals, inflation affects companies. So if your company's cash pile is sitting in dollars, or even worse, your local currency, then it is being eaten into by these terrible inflations that we're having across the world, right? So all over the world, people are using Bitcoin as a hedge for inflation, and they're buying in. There are even individuals that are themselves starting to buy on a massive scale, right? There's Jack Dorsey, for instance, in America, who's basically just buying Bitcoin. Jack has always been a Bitcoin bull. We thought that he was going to do something with Twitter, before Elon Musk bought it from him. But he hasn't abandoned his Bitcoin dreams. I think now he's going all in on Bitcoin because he's seen the writing on the wall and he's seen the future. Now, whether or not you like Jack or agree with his politics or what have you, the simple fact is the one unifying factor is Bitcoin, it seems to be. And talking of which, Grayscale, a very, very previously bullish company when it comes to crypto, Bitcoin, etc., they've been selling the heck out of Bitcoin this whole time, ever since the spot ETFs were approved and their funds were converted to, the GBTC was converted into their spot BTF, the spot Bitcoin ETF. They've been selling, right? Until recently that it seems that they might have exhausted the sales. Now, again, it's not Grayscale themselves who are selling per se. It is, the holders of the Grayscale ETF that are selling. And when they sell, then, of course, Grayscale has to sell Bitcoin. However, they were the ones, Grayscale that is, that created that scenario because of where they set their fees. But we're now getting inflows into Grayscale, which might signify that the sales are over. Who knows? Now, if Grayscale, one of the largest entities that are selling, stops selling, and the buy-in resumes with all the other ETFs, and all these other countries like Hong Kong and whoever is next start turning on their ETFs and people start to buy, we're about to see amazing things on the charts, right? We're moving into a massive bull run, right? And because we're now past the halving, usually a few months after the halving is when we start to see Bitcoin really take off. We are approaching times of euphoria, the likes of which even probably I've never seen. Even though I've been in crypto for quite a while, I'm expecting to have my mind completely blown to shreds. And finally, I want to mention something about XRP, right? XRP is such a sleeping giant, right? The reason why I call it a sleeping giant is all of the things that are going to happen to other cryptos during the bull market, in the middle of the bull market, the euphoric bull market, all that stuff is happening to XRP now. And XRP is sort of going through the pains, the growing pains, doing the work now, right? And it's going to come out on the other side, one of the only, if not the only token who can truly take off when the time comes, right? Depending on how Gary Gensler's calendar is and when he decides to go after all these other coins, Solana, Ethereum, Avalanche, AVAX, what have you, they will all get their day in court. And if they get their day in court during the bull market, that might be a catastrophic thing for them. But XRP, as we already see, is going to be exempt, judging by those new attacks that Gary Gensler unleashed that exempt XRP. I've parked my XRP somewhere. I'm not going to buy any more because I'm so stacked up with XRP. Unless we get a huge dip, then I might consider buying some more. But I'm going to do a different video about that because this is quite long already. Just remember that none of what I said in this video is financial advice. Do your own research, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.